All right, good evening, listeners. Welcome to Motley Crude, your new favorite Warhammer the Old World podcast, episode 10. I'm Kevin. With me, I have my regular acolytes, Andrew and Ryan. How you doing? Starting with Ryan.
I'm doing great. Just been a nice quiet weekend. How about you
Awesome.
guys?
Andrew?
I'm also doing good. Less quiet. I had to work. We had the Pittsburgh game at work, so it was a full house.
Yeah,
But
Saturdays are probably very busy in general for you.
yeah, like every game's either a Thursday or a Saturday. So
Yeah, fair. It's been pretty busy on my end. I'll get into that later when we do our "What's New in the Hobby" segment. But I am doing great, though. I am doing great. So what we've got for tonight, so it's going to be a bit of a shorter catch-up episode. We've got a ton of news to catch up on, leaks, models, armies of infamy, all that kind of good stuff to cover. But before we get to all of that, let's start with a bit of what's new in your hobby segment. I'll kick off with you, Ryan.
So I assembled a bunch of models this week. That's been cool. So I built the Warhammer Fantasy Manticore, which was actually excited when I found out if you're clever with magnets, you can actually build like all variations that come in the box off one model,
Nice.
which is rare for a GW kit.
Mhm.
Built that. Finished off all my skin wolves. What was the other thing I built? Something. Oh, and a Chaos Lord on a disc of Zinch slash Magic Carpet.
Nice. Nice. Is the Manticore's got the crazy rules that if you fail a leadership test, you lose control of it, right?
Well, like it gets frenzy.
Against friends. Oh, okay. So it's not that bad.
Yeah.
All right.
So it's like, oh no, you just put Mark of Corn on the Lord anyway. You don't care.
Sure. Yeah, exactly. It's not a big deal for your combat lord. Could be a bit more bothersome for your level forecaster, but that's cool.
Yeah. And honestly, like the model is just being used as a giant chaos spawn,
For sure.
without a rider. So
Sure. Cool. Did you play any games since our last episode?
no, I have been having my brain melted by the army. So I did not play any games.
Awesome. Okay. Okay. Good. What about you, Andrew? What's new in your hobby?
I can't remember what I talked about last episode. I was working on Enforcers for Necromunda. I finished those a while ago though. And then I thought I would jump into painting a bunch of terrain that I'd built, but haven't painted yet. And instead, I do that weird procrastination thing where a game for Xbox that I bought like 4 years ago all of a sudden became really interesting to me for some reason again. So I've been playing that. And
Awesome.
then just working stupid amounts of hours getting ready for the World Juniors at work, which is a big hockey tournament.
Sure. Good. Good stuff. On my end, it has not been the most productive hobby few weeks in my life. Our family welcomed the new little Nurgling into the world over the last 2.5 weeks there. So that's taken over my day and nighttime hours. Little time to hobby. That being said, I did get 4 practice games in with the Wolves of the Sea army. So that sounds like a shit ton, but it was against myself in the middle of the night when I was completely, you know, out of my mind in terms of sleeplessness. So I'm not sure how effective those were, but I did try a few different lists for the army. So I did a dragon type list. I did a big mob of different casters with all the casting bonuses, like machine gunning magic missiles list, and then I did a Demon Prince list and just tried some stuff out, getting a feel for the army. And yeah, it's been fun and interesting. And that's about it on the hobby side for me. Not too much to talk about there. Okay, so let's pivot to our main segment for the episode. So we've got a lot of news, leaks, and other related items to cover. So we're going to try to do this, I think, in chronological order. So the first thing that was revealed is Friedel the Chainmaker. The model was revealed on Warhammer Community. So let's just go through the team here, starting with Andrew. Like, what are your thoughts on the model? Is this do you like Friedel? And just your thoughts overall.
I think she's very mid. Like, it's a cool model, I guess, and it has like some character to it, but I think she falls into the trap that, or at least for me, every chaos character or champion has, where they just kind of look the same as the regular like rank and flank guys. Like, sure, they might have a few extra spikes here and there, or like a new pendant on them, but like nothing really sets her apart from the rest. Like, sure, she's on a tactical rock, so she'll stand taller, but I don't know. For something that was supposed to be, I guess, in spirit, sort of like the Marauder champion version of like a Chaos Lord, she kind of just looks like every other Chaos Warrior. Um, the model's not bad. It's just there's nothing like that really wows me about it, I feel.
Okay, all right. Awesome. What about you, Ryan?
So I'm kind of the medium version of Andrew's point here. Is like I think it's a cool model, um, but I also think it looks like every other like exalted champion, aspiring champion, lower level chaos lord that they've produced for both like 7th, 8th edition fantasy through Age of Sigmar. Um, even down to like the way the horns are shaped and everything. So it's one of those like is cool, but as you guys saw, I converted my own out of plastic instead of waiting for a Finecast model I may or not Finecast, a resin model I may or may not be able to actually buy because Canada's ridiculous. So that's just kind of like I think she looks cool. I don't think she's worth the effort to get in order to have her in the game. And then I agree with Andrew that like she's kind of an aesthetic mismatch for what she's supposed to be the special character of. Even though I understand like she's an exalted champion, therefore she's more like chaos
Yeah,
lord.
she's been exalted. She's a warrior of chaos at this point, not a marauder.
Exactly, but she's still leading the horde of marauders, and this even goes back to the mechanical issues with how she interacts with her own army.
Yeah,
But
that's
like,
a big miss. Yeah.
Yeah, her
visually
base is
doesn't
too big
fit
to
either.
actually go with Marauders, so it's like, what the fuck?
But her unit type doesn't even fit with marauders.
Yeah.
Like,
Right. Yeah, like she
Okay.
should look more like a seafaring Viking as opposed to just another spiky warrior.
Okay. I guess that the aesthetic just speaks to me more than it does to you guys. Like I love the model actually. I think this really speaks to me. I think Friedel's amazing. I think it's also more of like a grounded aesthetic than what you see, certainly with what we've seen in Age of Sigmar over the last few years, which is sort of the same army. I get the point that she doesn't look much like a seafarer, but that's fine. I think the face and like the big hairdo that she's got are pretty evocative as far as the especially old world Warriors of Chaos range goes. I do understand like the slight aesthetic mismatch issue for sure, but I think this is just the first model of hopefully many that we get in the old world for sort of redesign and updated Warriors of Chaos. So perhaps when we get some more models in that range, in future years, they'll fit in with Friedel a little bit better. Um, yeah, so I think they want to go down the old aesthetic tropes of the old Warriors of Chaos range while making sure that in updating it doesn't look too much like Age of Sigmar. So yeah, I think they succeeded. I like it. I think it's a great model personally.
Do you really think though that like the Age of Sigmar warriors are that much of a departure from the fantasy versions of them? Because They kind of just
Yeah.
look the same, but with better poses.
So yes, I get what you mean, but so most of the big new characters that they've introduced, so like the I forget her first name there, but like the Spear of the Everchosen that came out last year, like rides this crazy wingless dragon beast and looks like she's half mutated type situation, or what's the other one, like the Lord on Karkadrak, like just things that didn't exist in the old world that would sort of completely that wouldn't fit in with that range. So I get your point, Andrew. I mean, it's Warriors of Chaos. Baroque armor and spikes can only go so far, but
Yeah.
I still think she's different than some of the latest AOS stuff. Like just think of Varangard and stuff like that. They completely different, I would say, than old world Warriors of Chaos.
Yeah, fair enough.
Okay. All right. So let's so that was our first one. So I guess now we're coming to the Empire of Man. So let's start by talking about all the returning kits that have been announced for the army. So Ryan, can you give us a quick overview of what's on its way back?
Absolutely. So we've got a battalion box that's gonna have the glorious steam tank and heaps of state troops and state missile troops in it.
Yeah.
Like an unnecessary amount of
Yes.
both. And then we have the hippogriff, the big plastic hippogriff, and the what's it look like? Your commanders of the Empire set. It looks like a general on foot and a general on a horse. And it looks like also a plastic engineer is in there somewhere. Sorry, I'm just going through the article. Yeah, so state missile troops, all that. The flagellants, which are just I love them so much. They're ridiculous. Great swords, archers, and what is it? Militia, Free
Yeah,
Company
it is.
militia.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and then the mortar and cannon combo box, and the crazy rocket launcher / Hellfire volley gun, and we also have the return of the Empire Knights in plastic, the Pistoliers and Outriders, Demigryph Knights, the War Altar of Sigmar, Steam Tank. And then coming back in resin, we have some fancy characters. It looks like a BSB, some kind of like I'm assuming a priest of some sort. He's like half naked and screaming. And
Yeah,
it looks
he
like
had
another Empire
a
general.
fun name, but generally looks like a priest. I
Yeah.
forget what it is right now.
And the War Wagon of the Empire with its 8 billion individual weapons that don't synergize at all. Which appears to also come with a new engineer model of some sort. It's an engineer with a Hochland long rifle and some kind of automated paper dispenser.
Yeah.
And then we have all sorts of metal stuff coming back, old school Griffin banner dude, possibly a general or a witch hunter of some sort. The armored dudes with the hammers, I forget what they're called.
Teutogen guards.
Quite possibly, they look very religious.
Okay.
The
Awesome.
ones with the wolf cloaks.
Yeah.
No, they don't have cloaks. These might just be priests of Sigmar.
Yeah. It's a bunch of priests of Sigmar. There's like 4.
Oh yeah. It's just all the old
And then,
spells they had.
yeah, then we've got the Knights of the White Wolf, or Knights
Yeah.
of the Wolf-ish.
Yeah, White Wolf. Yeah.
Some dudes, some engineers, a bunch of miscellaneous knights on horses of various types. And then the Teutogen Guard command set, and the ogre, the Imperial ogre.
Yeah, straight out of my early childhood.
Yeah. So that's all of the immediate stuff that is coming shortly in the new year.
Awesome. So, first off, Andrew, what are your thoughts on all these kits and releases? Like, are you surprised by how much is coming back? Any highlights from your perspective or misses that you're thinking of?
I'm not, other than like the Imperial Ogre, I'm not surprised all this is coming back.
Okay.
Maybe the wolf card that they showed.
Yeah.
That was one I kind of wish list was coming back, but I was kind of 50-50 of whether they would, because those were old like metal kits from like 6th Ed, I think. But I'm super stoked for this. Like, I'm not an Empire player, and I don't see myself buying the army, but I think I might buy a few of these kits just to have for like conversion fodder, especially for like Necromunda. But like my old warriors list, instead of marauders, I use flagellants
Okay.
and to be like cultists as opposed to like Vikings. Um, these are all like super classic kits, and maybe it's just my nostalgia, but like it feels Warhammer now that they're coming back to me. Like, I can't wait to see these on the table, and
Yeah.
it's nice to see it all come back. So I'm super stoked for this. Like all their characters too are so characterful. Like the priests just look like fucking crazy madmen.
Yeah.
They got their wacky like vehicles that are just like no realistic way these things should be like useful on a battlefield, but here they come, like the war wagon and the war altar. Like it's great. Like it just perfect Empire. Um, so I'm stoked to see all these return.
Yeah. I think, Andrew, you said it well when you said, that this feels like Warhammer, and I couldn't agree more. Looking at some of these old models that I hadn't looked at in a long time, I can't help but, think clearly the aesthetic for like Mordheim is rooted in these guys, in a lot of those crazy wacko characters that you see in the Empire line. Yeah, I'm just as you are. I'm super pumped about it. I think the battalion, as Ryan was listing it out there, the battalion is a bit of a weird one. It makes sense in previous editions of the game, I guess, how it's built. But like the zillion state troops and the one like you can only have one steam tank in the old world, basically at 2,000 points. So, it doesn't really push you to buy one or even, well, certainly not multiple, but even one of these sets. So, it is what it is. Aside from that, like I'm just really impressed by the amount of 6th Ed and older models that are coming back, like pulled from like the, uh, pulled from the grip of history and brought back out. A little bit sad to see the Tutogen Guard come back because, as the guys know, I invested a lot of money into buying these up once they disappeared and once the game ended. So that turned out to be a very poor investment on my part. That being said, I'm super happy to see all those old models back. The War Wagon looks sick. It's been, I think, redone in resin, which is or like modern resin, which is great. Having it come with an engineer just tells me that it's going to be a mount option, perhaps in one of the armies of infamy, which we'll cover later. And I gotta say, like the size of the release to me is wild. Like I get it; they had all these sculpts lying around, the molds, sorry, lying around. But on the other hand, like when I'm used to AOS and 40K and other GW ranges where, the size of a new army release in those games is, half a dozen to 10, maybe if you're very lucky, dozen kits. But this is way more. It's, again, I know they're bringing back old molds, but still like a massive release. In terms of things that I think are missing, I was a bit surprised not to see the Blades of Manan come back. These guys are hinted at, well, not hinted at. They're like the main antagonists to the Wolves of the Sea in the Arcane Journal for Warriors of Chaos, like the lore portions of it. So I kind of thought that they would be back. And then Null Ironsides is another strange one for me not seeing the kit come back, just because we have a Null Army of Infamy coming up, which we'll cover in a bit. Ryan, what are your thoughts on that whole slew of kits coming back?
Yeah, like I think the scope of it definitely comes down to the fact that like Empire is the premier faction of Warhammer Fantasy, if you kind of
Yeah.
think about it.
Mhm.
And they're also super popular in Total War.
Yeah.
So that's definitely a thing. But yeah, they have a lot of options, but at the same time, like you can't really take the battalion box and make a combined arms type of force very easily. Or
Yeah.
you're gonna have like a steam tank you can't use, or way too many like state missile troops, um, or too many state troops, unless
Yeah.
they
You'll
find
have
some way to make
for
them
sure too
awesome.
many. Yeah.
Um,
Unless the
now, with
book
that
changes
said,
that.
though, they also haven't announced what the made to order run will be
Fair.
for it. So, they did say stuff like the whatchamacallit, the War Wagon is going to be like limited. But yeah, once the MTO order comes out, it may be entirely possible that we see things like the Blades of Manon and whatever else pop up, or the Ironsides. But
Yeah.
um, no, I'm quite excited to see how all of it fits together. Um, but also, much like Andrew, it's one of those like I appreciate the Empire from a distance, but it's not an army that I would play, but it's because every time I try and build an army, I just build a worse version of the Bretonnian army I already play.
Yeah, they're in a tough place in the game right now when it comes to putting them on the table. I'd love for the Armies of Infamy, which is a great segue into that discussion. The Armies of Infamy to just give them really some new life and some alternate playstyles where they don't just feel like a worse version of somebody else's army, as you just mentioned.
Absolutely.
Okay, let's move. Let's talk about the Armies of Infamy here. So, the first one that we've got is the city-state of Nuln. So let's talk about our predictions for the army. Like, what's the potential for new rules? What's the army composition and new units like that we're thinking of? So I'll kick this one. I'll kick this one off. So the first thing I think that comes to mind when I look at the current Empire army list, and then what I would expect out of the city-state of Nuln is, for me, Nuln means gunpowder is like the gunpowder aspect of the Empire. So, you're thinking all the war machines, engineers, and stuff. So, I guess the first thing that comes to mind is we need some kind of engineer general for the Army of Infamy. Right now, there's like the Empire Engineer is like a 45-point model that basically just exists to give ballistic skill 4 to one of your war machines or reroll a dice. So I'd love to see like an Empire engineer general or guild master or some other cool title that brings a little bit more to the table for sure. That has, like in the expeditionary force for dwarves, they have like the increased cooler engineer there that gives a bunch of additional rules to that Army of Infamy. So I'd like to see something like that for Nuln. Also, I think the War Wagon is definitely going to be a mount, as I mentioned earlier, for that kind of engineering character. I do hope, however, that the War Wagon is not just a mount, and you can sort of take it on its own, also, because that would be super cool.
I mean,
Other
the
things
engineer is on foot.
he is, but if he comes with the kit, I think typically you can put him on the top, which is just a flat surface, right?
Quite possibly.
Yeah. So, but if he can't go on it, then I'm cool with that also. Um, Other things, I think Ironsides, maybe they won't get their models back, but definitely as like a way to buff a unit of handgunners and make them Ironsides or some other equivalent type regiment of renown or unit there would be great. Aside from that, potentially in terms of rules, like I can't see a way where there's not some sort of buff to artillery or add-on rules that you can put on the artillery from Nuln for sure. And then in terms of army composition, like I think this is if anywhere, this is the army where you're going to see more than one steam tank, and then potentially just an increased like Wolves of the Sea there. The increase, what is it, rare slot or a special slot that's increased, right, Ryan?
I think so,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. So increased special slot also to just give you an ability to bring more artillery pieces. Yeah, okay, that's my take on Nuln. What are you guys thinking, Ryan?
So generally, like I agree with all that. Like when you think of Nuln, you immediately think of gunpowder, war machines, all of that. So there will definitely be interactions in that space. But also, like as we'll discuss a little bit later, like one of the new characters that's coming out is also um, Nuln related.
Yeah.
And seems to lean heavily into like an increased mercenary presence in your army.
Yeah.
So that has an element to it as well. Yeah, it says here, City State of Null Army will be able to take 25% of its army as mercenaries instead of the usual 20.
That's super cool design space. I mean,
Yeah.
5% is whatever, but like it's cool design space.
So that's well, especially because we'll talk about what he does later, but it's 25% of your army and they're better than normal other people's mercenaries.
Yeah.
So that's a whole thing. And also, like, I don't know how much they want to play with it, but like Magnus the Pious launches his crusade that ultimately turns into the Great War Against Chaos from Nuln.
Really?
And
That's cool.
Yeah. So in the timeline, like right now that we're existing in, we're 30 years ahead of the Siege of Prague. So Magnus the Pious is a solid like 80-year-old like lector of Sigmar just hanging out in Nuln. So, there may be some interaction with that future concept as well.
Yeah.
And now that I did some quick looking, and now that I see what Ironsides were before, I strongly suspect that they're going to be they're going to exist the same way Yeoman Guard do,
Mhm.
where it's just like cool, like we recommend you do this, but we're not going to give you models for it. Just make your handgunners look cooler. I think that'll be how they bring them back.
Awesome.
Yeah, I think you covered all the other structural stuff.
Yep, I agree. I agree with that definitely. What about you, Andrew?
Yeah, you guys kind of covered most of it. Like my worry is that it'll just kind of be not like 100% obviously, but like a copy paste job of the dwarves expeditionary force, where it's just like here's some cool buffs for artillery and some range stuff, and that's kind of it. But being that the mercenary character does change up that design space and the way you're going to build your armies, maybe we will see like a more leaning into mercenaries, and maybe even like being able to pull in all the mercenaries from the different books, regardless of like sort of affiliations or whatnot, would be like cool as well. And you can maybe get closer to that Dogs of War style army. But yeah, like I don't know. There's not being in Nuln, like it kind of dictates how that army's gonna play. It's gonna be a lot of shooting. It's gonna be a lot of cannons and war machines, right?
I think you're onto something with the comparison to dwarves, though, too. I think the royal clans showed us a way that they managed to make like two armies of infamy that exist in one.
Yeah, exactly.
I think there may be some space for like the shooty, like borderline Napoleonic's army and
Yeah.
a slightly different empire state army.
Awesome. Okay, so moving on to the second army of infamy there, the knightly orders of the empire. So same type of idea, Ryan. I'll kick off with you. What are your predictions for this one in terms of new units, rules, and army comp?
So I'm not the most historical Warhammer Fantasy read in person, but all things considered, I think what we're gonna see here is they'll bring back unit types, possibly in name only, for the different knightly orders, either as like an upgrade you can purchase for a unit of Empire Knights or as bespoke units themselves. with different equipment or whatever. And they'll be slightly different, but like basically what I'm imagining is I want to say there's 4 nightly orders, correct me if I'm wrong.
I think so.
Sounds right.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Really,
like
I
basically
thought
I'm
there was
imagining
I thought there was more, but sure.
yeah, like basically I'm imagining there's going to be 4 or 5 different types of cavalry that you can, make like an errantry crusade. I don't need to bring infantry type army out of. But I'll be curious to see how they leverage that design space to make their cavalry feel different, because it really didn't work for like questing knights versus Knights of the Realm on the Bretonnian side. So I'll, I I don't actually know what they're going to do on this front. I just know it's going to be a lot of horses.
Fair. Yeah. It's going to be our oops all cavalry list.
But their army can already do that.
Yeah, but that didn't stop them when it came to Warriors of Chaos.
Yeah, they made a worse all cavalry army.
Fair. Okay. All right. What about you, Andrew?
Yeah. Probably an oops all Cavalis, obviously. Um I'm kind of picturing like how you can upgrade priests and generals, I believe, to have certain abilities that then when they're in a certain unit, it upgrades that unit as well. Is it the generals that do that? Maybe I'm thinking of the witch hunter, but the priest does that for sure. So I'm kind of seeing that, but on knight units. So it'll be like, here's your block of Empire Knights, and then they'll have like a list of like upgrades. So it'll be like, oh, Knights of the, I don't know, White Wolf or whatever it is, and they might have like Furious Charge, like an extra ability. I kind of picture that. So you can have sort of either all of your knights in the faction from one of the base like nightly chapters, or you can have a mix of all of them. Again, talking about the Siege of Prague, when they went up there, Magnus the Pious split his army. He took all the cav to go relieve Prague, and all of his foot troops to go to the. Sorry, he sent all the knights to go relieve the capital, which at the time they didn't know was sacked, and he took all the foot troops to Prague. But that knightly force was kind of like the Rohan coming in to save the day at the end, because Prague was almost going to be lost. So I can picture like sort of this big knightly force that could be representative of like the knightly side of Magnus the Pious's army that went up north there. So with all the different chapters being in one big army as opposed to just your whole army being from one chapter. But yeah, like I don't know. I'm worried it's gonna be like the Warriors list where it's gonna be like, cool, here's some knights that you have to take, and then you can't take any foot troops. Like it'll be more like limits on what the army can do as opposed to like here's a bunch of cool rules to make this army even better. But I think there is still some space to include foot troops. So like maybe we'll see some buffs to sword masters, or the return of the Teutonic Guard on foot. Maybe they'd be included in there as well, and maybe we'll see like foot troops that are actually good. But I'm not really sure. I don't really like the speculation stuff. I'm not good at guessing.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, I think you guys mainly covered it. For me, I have a harder time thinking of things that are missing for the nightly orders because they already have their characters. They already have, their 2-3 varieties of knights with the demigryphs and all their light calves. So I guess, Ryan, I'm kind of going to go the same way you went on this one. I think basically I would be very disappointed if there wasn't a mechanic for turning all of your knights of the different varieties into like your Knights Panther, your Knights of the White Wolf, your Knights of the Blazing Sun, your Knights of the Kitchen Table for all of you halfling enjoyers out there. So like if there wasn't that kind of mechanic, I'd be very disappointed. I think the smart way to approach it would be same way that they do for the Marks of Chaos on where it's like an upgrade on the unit. That would be an upgrade that would make it Knights Panther or Knights of the White Wolf. You for sure we're going to see Knights Panther because like one of their models we're going to be talking about in a few minutes there. But I really have a harder time thinking of things to add for this one. I think, like you said, I think it was Ryan also. It's going to be like your basically you're restricting army choice to push you down the road of a null cav army. I just hope that they give it enough extra juice so that it doesn't turn into a Heralds of Darkness version 2.0 army. Or Errantry Crusade. Like they're basically all of their cavalry lists have sort of gone nowhere, unfortunately, as far as the armies of infamy go. So let's hope this one bucks the trend. Moving on to the next thing. The next thing is we have a new model revealed for the Empire. That's the Nuln General that Ryan was talking about earlier. So pardon in advance to all our German listeners out there, but General Hans von Löwenhacke has been previewed on the community site. What are your thoughts, Andrew?
I like him. I know a lot of people were saying he looks a little too busy for like Warhammer Fantasy. Like he has a lot going on, and maybe he has a bit of a more Age of Sigmar aesthetic with like the cartoony proportions and stuff. But I think it's a good modern take on like old Empire models, because like these models haven't been redone in what 12 plus years at this point. So like obviously it's not going to be an exact representation of like the design space they were in that long ago. So I really like this model. It fits like the theme of Empire. Again though, I feel like he's kind of like if he was like, here's generic Empire character, I'd be like, oh, okay. And now that he's a name character, it's still kind of that my same reaction. Like same with Friedel. It's like cool. She just looks like every other, or he looks like every other Empire character. But I do like the model, and I do like the sort of modernization of like the Empire line in general.
Sorry, I was muted there. For me, it's the same, Andrew, in that like I'm just happy to see the Empire line, updated and brought into a more modern sort of sculpting style. In general, I like our boy Hans here. I think he's a cool model. I find the aesthetic a little bit over the top. I get like, I don't know if this makes sense to you guys, but I get like Warcraft vibes from him. Like if somebody told me that this guy was fighting for Lordaeron in Warcraft, I'd be like, yeah, he fits the bill perfectly. So yeah, but I still like him in general. I'm more of a Friedel fan for sure. But he's cool. I think his headpiece could be shrunk down a few sizes, and I'd probably probably be even more on board. What are your thoughts, Ryan?
I'm generally the same. Like, I like him. I actually like him exactly how he is, but at the same, like, I can understand some of the. I do think if he was less heroically proportioned, he wouldn't look as funky, I guess. But at the same time, if you did make those details smaller, they almost would just get lost. Like you'd almost just want to remove them entirely, other than the headpiece. But but like all things considered, he looks like a lot of the earlier Warhammer Fantasy stuff. Like because there was that transition from like shitty early Citadel models to whimsical high fantasy universe Warhammer Fantasy to the like more grounded fantasy that like was kind of where our age bracket hit the game. And I think he's sliding more towards the that second like mid 90s category of stuff, which does mean that visually he does fit in with a lot of the other things that are being re-released. With that said, I actually just find I like his rules mechanically. he gives out a plus or minus 1 modifier to the result of the roll to go first, which is neat.
Yeah, that's sick.
And
That's really good.
he allows mercenaries in an army where he is the general to use his inspiring presence rule. He may join him, or he may join them, and they are not subject to the misbehaving mercenaries rule.
Oh, so
So-
you could have your little retinue of mercenaries for your general. That's cool.
Correct. Yeah. So like you could take him and some like imperial dwarf spearman that he will fit in because this dude's proportions just scream. I have like my great grandfather was a dwarf.
Yeah, exactly.
um,
Hans the half dwarf.
exactly. And then like some like I'm just imagining this bizarre situation where you just have like this gun line of imperial things and then a bunch of doom seekers that are like sprinting down the table at people,
Yeah,
all
with
led by this guy.
mercenary ogres and mercenary dwarves. That'd be a cool army.
And that's one of the things where like just purely on theme, this character and what he does to the prospective Nuln army could possibly get me to do something Empire down the road if there's a clever way to piece together mercenary units and Empire State troops that makes me happy. But like that's the kind of space that I like them creating with this guy.
You're selling me on him a little bit, for sure. with the
Also,
mercenary army.
The chance to have a +2 to go first is pretty cool.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, that is. It starts to really skew those
show
odds
up,
a little bit more.
Just
Yeah.
murder a unit champion and go first anyway.
Yeah, fair. And the champions aren't great in this army.
They are.
Yeah, and one thing, we were talking about aesthetics when we were talking about Friedel there with Warriors of Chaos. This guy definitely doesn't look like Cities of Sigmar. He's really grounded in the old world.
Yes,
Yeah,
definitely.
That's a big thing about him.
Okay, cool. Let's move to the next character that we got. That is the Grand Master of the Knights Panther, Harold Gemundsen. Again, sorry for my German listeners out there. So I sent you guys a bit of a potato picture, but there's a better one that's circulating online, which I'm sure you've all seen. Ryan, what are your thoughts on Harold? Harold.
I think he looks really cool. Like he has like all of his design aesthetic has the classic Empire shapes to it, which actually, funnily enough, do carry through to Cities of Sigmar, having a bunch of the Cities of Sigmar cavalry. That Empire barding aesthetic that looks like the shape of the steam tank is very consistent across all of their models. Anyway, that's just kind of a thing. But no,
Man,
he looks cool.
I hadn't caught that the shape of the armor on the knights and the steam tanks, but like hearing that out loud, it was like a eureka moment in my head that just clicked.
Yes, but yeah, it's like he looks very Empire. He's got his little weird horned entity thing on top of his helmet, but like he kind of falls into this weird border space of like if it wasn't for the fact that he's in obviously full plate armor, he looks like a Bretonnian riding an Empire horse. That's all I gotta say.
Yeah, I like him too. I think the one picture that we've seen circulating online probably doesn't do him justice. Like the angle is sort of sideways, and when you look at it, because the horse is leaning backwards and he's presumably leaning backwards in his saddle to hit somebody with a puny strength 3 attack.
I have a side profile picture of him. He's his right arm is pulled back holding an axe as if he's like about to swing to decapitate someone.
Fair.
So, like it's very dynamic,
Yeah.
but it just looks super awkward from the front.
Yeah, exactly. At first I was like, what kind of head does he have? And then I noticed it's like a shoulder pad, but because he's leaned so far sideways there, it just probably not the best angle for the picture, but in general, I like the model. It's super dynamic. The horse looks kick-ass, and the old world. If there's something we don't have, is a lot of kick-ass horses. We have a lot of old, fugly horses. So I'm really there for this guy. I really appreciate him, and I think he's going to be a cool model to lead your army and all of your Knights Panther. Going forward, I like the theme that you can bring. You could bring with that. What about you, Andrew?
Yeah, he definitely like looks very lordly. Um, Especially with like the classic, his horse rearing back pose, like Napoleon almost, like that classic picture. Um, so yeah, I really
100.
like him.
Propaganda painting.
Yeah, 100%. I just clicked for that too. You're bang on, Andrew, for the
So
pose.
like he's gonna make a very good like leader for your army because he just has that kind of heroic pose. Whereas like the last guy, he's kind of just walking on foot and his weapons down by his side. Like it's like yeah, he's cool, but this one a lot more heroic looking just because of the pose that he's in. Again, the picture you sent is kind of fugly, so it's hard to make out a lot of detail on him. Um, but it is nice to see like updated horses too because old GW horses from that era are kind of shit. I'm not totally up on his rules, so I can't really comment on that. But
We
I
don't
think,
know anything about his rules yet.
oh, we don't know anything about this guy. Okay, cool. Um, so yeah, I think he's gonna be cool. I would like to see a better picture though, because the one you sent is basically a potato.
Yes, indeed. Okay, cool. So yeah, the only thing there, Andrew, that sort of came to mind is I think you're right. Like, and it so he does have that super dynamic pose, like mid battle compared to our boy Hans, who's more of an at ease pose, which kind of makes sense to me when I look at the Empire army list, where you've got the Empire General, which is not much. Well, less of a combat character than your Grand Masters. So seeing the actual Grand Master of the Knights Panther versus the General, kind of to me, it just reinforces how that list is designed.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, now we get to something really interesting. 3 new Empire mages were previewed. So we've got one which is like Lore of Beasts, I think. One which is Lore of Heaven, and then one which is more like a necromancy type or high magic or whatever. And then a more necromancy type of mage. So yeah, I'll go first with my thoughts on these. I am super on board with these 3 different mages and their fun sidekicks. I love them. I think these are great additions to the range. They have so much more character for me than the old Empire mages did, which were a little bit derpy. These guys are just they're oozing with style and character. By far my favorite is the like wild mage type guy that looks like he's from Talabek land or whatever. Sort of would make a perfect priest of Tal if that was a thing. Yeah, that guy for sure, I think, has the coolest aesthetic of the 3 of them, and his sidekick also wins for me. I'm calling him Baby Slan. Baby Slan sidekick. I'm super there for. The tiny frog is amazing. I really like the necromancer lady also, and I think she's got a halfling as a halfling skeleton as a pet, which is unfortunate. I'm a big halfling fan, so I'd rather see them with some more meat on their bones. But we'll take what we could get at this point. And then the other guy to me just looks like so the high magic, or yeah, let's call him the high magic mage. There to me looks like the most generic mage I can imagine. If this is your first D&D campaign ever and somebody creates a mage, this is what they have in their mind's eye for sure. But I don't hate them. I think again, I think all 3 are fantastic. What do you think, Ryan?
I love all of them. Like, I love the fact that they look. I mean, it's probably a cart horse thing, but they look exactly like the artwork in the rulebook, which is super cool. I think like they're all very on brand. So looking at the article, the they have them described as a battle mage, an elementalist, and a necromancer. Just because Teclis hasn't founded the school of the fucking colleges of magic yet.
You're right. You're right.
So that's cool, and I want to say like the one with the staff with the orb or something. I swear I can't find it right now, but like there is something super classic Warhammer Fantasy that he's super reminiscent of, and I'm just not able to put my finger on it. But also World of Warcraft.
Like a piece of artwork or something.
Yeah, there's something. I'm just not like I don't know if like Warcraft 2 or Warhammer Fantasy Battles are blurring together in my head because they overlap significantly in aesthetic, but
Yeah.
these made me regret all of the things that I have acquired to be outcast wizards for my Bretonnian army.
100%. Like the middle guy in the pictures I sent you would be a sick outcast wizard.
Yeah, but I mean he's competing with literal Gandalf. Point.
Fair enough.
Uh,
Gandalf the
but yeah,
Grey,
they
not
just
the white. If you're going for outcast, yeah.
exactly. They just look so cool, and they have so much character. I love it.
Couldn't agree more. What about you, Andrew?
Yeah, like these models are great. They very much encompass the sort of lores of magic that they're representing on the table. You know, you got your Heavens Wizard with decked out in like whites and blues and looking very regal. You got your like Hedge Wizard Druid type guy for the beast lore, and then the Necromancer, of course, like again, very like clean, but it she's really cool. I like because she's differentiated enough from like a Vampire Count's Necromancer. They look very decrepit and like kind of gross and scary looking, whereas she looks very clean and like again elegant, but still clearly a Necromancer. It's a very cool take on like the Necromancer vibe because it's really easy to just go for that kind of like almost undead looking type character, like a lich, but again, she's a human. So that's really cool. Um, I have seen some complaints online, people saying that they look too cartoony and like very close to the World of Warcraft aesthetic, but I think in this regard it works because these guys are supposed to kind of be like really like their personalities are very big and weird and kind of alien to the everyday Empire folks, so they should be kind of different.
I also have a counterpoint to that though, which is that the Warhammer or the Warcraft aesthetic is heavily derived from the Warhammer aesthetic of the 90s.
Yeah, I mean,
Again,
Warcraft was originally supposed to be a Warhammer game, and then there's some licensing issues, so that totally makes sense. Totally.
like I agree, but I'm just echoing what I heard. I don't actually agree with those complaints because I think like they should look like this. And like yeah, I think they fit the bill perfectly. And again, like they're gonna set themselves out from the rest of your army. Like that's gonna be a cool focal point for like if you have a big foot troop army because you don't like winning games. These guys are gonna stand out in that army because they are so different, but they're still very like grounded in that Empire feel because they are humans. They, you know, at least maybe not so much like the Beast Wizard, but like the Necromancer and the Heavens Wizard definitely do look like they belong in the Empire. So they're like different but the same, if that makes sense. And I think, yeah, they really work. They're awesome.
Yeah, I agree with you entirely, and I think there kudos to the team in that I think with these Empire models, they've really managed to give them a different aesthetic from the Cities of Sigmar in AOS. These guys are clearly their own thing, which I really appreciate. And between Friedel, the two generals that we've seen, and these three mages and their super whimsical and cool sidekicks, like I'm just really excited to see what keeps coming out for the old world because they've been really kicking ass with these sculpts. So I'm super excited for what comes next. Like, start giving us some full units here.
I
Okay.
do wonder what's
Oh, go
up
ahead.
with the familiars though. Like, are they gonna have special rules for these guys, or are they just like cool models included?
Like, yeah, that's an interesting question. So I think there's a history in Warhammer, like old fantasy battles, to have familiars sort of tag along with your character, with your mages. So that's not like completely out of place. That being said, what would be super cool, I think, Andrew, is if you had an upgrade in the new book that you could buy that like was a familiar that gave you whatever kind of buff, and you could just throw in one of these models beside him.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Okay. So that's it for our old world models. There's a few AOS leaks that I just threw in there because I think they'll be super usable in the old world too. So we're talking about a vampire count on a nightmare steed, witch hunters, a pair of witch hunters, and I think we can also, not a leak, but you guys can also talk about all the goblin wolf riding mobs that were going to be released for AOS and not Old World. Like, just what are you thinking about all of these leaks / models for AOS that I think can see some dual use on our side? Starting with Andrew.
I think it's cool. I know at least with like the vampire count on Nightmare Steed, like that's probably gonna see a lot of play in Old World just because that's not an easily obtainable model anymore. And because they're not gonna re-release that army for the foreseeable future, it's nice to get like actual GW kits that can still be used in that game as well. Um as for the witch hunters, like I don't know how much they're gonna see play. Like they're cool, and maybe if you really like their aesthetic, they will. But there's so many options for other witch hunters, like that. What is it? The Warcry
Yeah,
Warband. Like those models, I find are better, and they have the like a better witch hunter feel to them. These guys kind of just look
agreed.
like weird mercenary dudes.
Yeah, they're more Mordheim than Old World. I'd agree with you.
Yeah, like if you're a Mordheim player, like definitely pick these guys up because they're gonna fit perfect in with your like witch hunter band. But I don't know how about Old World for these guys. The Goblin stuff. I mean, isn't that character that's coming out just the character from the book?
Well, there's some similarities for sure, like
Like
the
he
same
has,
weapon, and yeah.
yeah, the same weapon. He's on a wolf. He's like kind of big.
I'm pretty sure it has the same name.
Like it.
Oh
Yeah.
no, he has a different name in AOS. He has a different name.
Oh, okay.
Like, do they realize that people are probably just gonna buy that for this game? Like, they gotta think somewhere along the lines like that, right? Because like, it's too perfect for that character that is yet to be released. Um. So yeah, like they gotta have that in the back of their minds when they release stuff like this because I'm sure a ton of people who are running like the Nomadic Wa are gonna just pick up that guy if they haven't already converted their own, because he's just like a perfect model for that character.
Agreed. Agreed. Yeah. What about you, Ryan? All those AOS leaks / models. Thoughts?
Yeah, so I'll start with the Nomadic Wa, but like not gonna lie, given the rumors and discussion that we've seen about kind of the weird infighting about whose project is what, um, I actually and also knowing how long print production times are for GW, I almost half believe that those those models that are being released for Age of Sigmar are what the Nomadic Wa rules were written for or inspired by. Because it doesn't there doesn't seem to be any indication of us actually ever getting wolf chariots with a third wolf or this fancy character or any of these other things. Um, but they're suspiciously coming out for Age of Sigmar not too long after. So that's
Yeah,
just my conspiracy
it's an
theory.
awfully strange timing, that's for sure.
Yes. Because I know, like, if I was going to build a Nomadic Wa, it definitely would have those models in it, except for the new Doom Diver. That thing is fugly as shit.
That's what makes it great.
It's just so busy and hard for me to look at. It's
Yeah,
I don't know.
it's going to be a nightmare to paint that thing. There's like a creature underneath it too and stuff. Like under all the woods, like yeah.
Yeah, so that's the thing. Speaking of nightmares, though, the Vampire Lord on Nightmare, that model is just cool. Like that, they've been killing it with the Vampire Counts or whatever they're called in Age of Sigmar models. Like they're all amazing. The Witch Hunters, honestly, one of them just looks like another Witch Hunter model they already make that I have with a different head, but lacking the cool witch hunter hat that the other one has.
Yeah, this is also their second time that these two characters are from a series of books, and this is like their second rendition as like a anniversary edition or whatever. So you may have
Okay.
seen them.
So
Yeah,
So they were
maybe
released
that's why they
before?
look so similar.
yeah.
Okay,
So,
that makes sense. I
yeah,
will say though that if that's the case, the previous iteration of these two characters looks better than these two. Um,
cool.
that's
Okay,
it.
sure. Yeah, on my end, so I'll start with the vampire count on Nightmare. I think that's a sick model. I love the Blood Knights for AOS. So before the Old World came out, when that army came out, it was like my big AOS army. I have a shit ton of those Blood Knights. I love them to pieces, and I love the aesthetic of them. So this guy for me fits right in, and I guess is just an easy like an easy gateway into bringing that army back into old world for me, like the whole blood knight themed vampire counts list, which would be super cool. The two of the two witch hunters, I'm kind of like you guys. They're all right. I think they fit better in Mordheim than they do in the old world. And then all the goblins. Yeah, I think the timing is definitely suspicious. Right after a few months after we see a nomadic Wa army to include a big bunch of wolf riding goblins into AOS, and they fit super weirdly in AOS also. So the like the Night Goblin army, the Gloomspite Gits, have I know they now have a unit of wolf riders, but like thematically don't really sort of fit the vibe of the sun worshipping wolf riding goblins. We're talking about an army of dank cave dwellers, so it's a bit of a weird shoe-in for me. It doesn't really make sense, and I guess I just wish they were all in old world and not in AOS. But I don't think anybody will disagree with me on that one on this podcast. So yeah. Okay, I think we only have one more item to go through. So the leaks are coming out so fast and hard that we've had one more since I typed up our show notes for this evening, and that's we've got Corhill Lion's Mane that was leaked online, which is obviously a high elf character from I'm just gonna call it Krace for now, unless one of you guys corrects me with a better pronunciation. So. Andrew, what are your thoughts on Corhill coming back? And then I think the very, very strong possibility of a Krace Army of Infamy. How would you see that Army of Infamy shaking out?
Um, I think it's a weird choice to bring him back. He was never really a big player in sort of any of the lore, at least the stuff that I've read. And even back in like 8th Ed and stuff, like he wasn't a major character. He was just kind of one of those like because every book had like I think it was like up to 10, usually around like 5 or 6 special named characters, and there'd be like the two main guys who would be the sort of focal point for that army. In case of high elves, it was Tyrion and Teclis, and Corhill was just kind of one of those like filler dudes. So it's
Yeah,
weird.
sidekick. Yeah.
Yeah, like a sidekick. Like he was like a cool choice to take, but you'd never really see him in any armies because you can kind of do what he does better by just custom making your own hero. Um, so and that was at like that point in time in the game. So at this point in time in like the old world setting, like I would have to assume he's even less of a major player. So it's kind of weird to bring him back. Maybe I'm sure they'll have some kind of story to like bring him in, or maybe he will be the focal point for the High Elves at this time period. But again, it's just a really weird choice. For the model itself, like he was always kind of derpy looking too. Like he has a really long face. Like he doesn't fit. Like I don't know, he just looks like a weird elf. He doesn't kind of fit the line anymore, especially with like a lot of the modern high elf stuff that they release like right at the end of or like during 8th edition. Like he just kind of doesn't work with that aesthetic.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Like it's cool, I guess, to see him back. If there's any like Core Hill stands, they'll be happy. But like I don't know, it just seems like a weird choice. If they do a Trace army, like that'd be super cool. Have a lot of White Lion units in there, chariots. Maybe they'll have like a way to take the lions um, off of the chariot, and you have them as like pack dogs or whatever. That'd be super cool. But yeah, maybe that'll be like their Oops All Cav army, even though there's specific provinces in Uthuan who do all Cav and all chariots better than Trace does. So I don't know. It's interesting to see him back. I'm kind of ambivalent about it though. Like, I don't know. It's just a high elf.
Yeah, awesome. I'll go next there, Ryan. So
Yeah.
Coral. Yeah, I mean, I'm not a super big fan of the sculpt. I mean, he does. I think I agree with you, Andrew. Looks a bit derpy to me, especially his face. I think this is how like it has the high elf aesthetic, but it was sculpted before they had the technology to sculpt high elves well. So it kind of suffers a little bit from that. I'm happy to see him back, though. I'm sure he's got fans and high elf players everywhere are going to be super happy. So that's cool. I think a Krace themed high elf army of infamy would be super cool. So I hadn't thought of the lion pack dogs, Andrew, but I'm all there for that. That would be super cool, and it would be something the army I think would benefit from having like that cheap redirect. Well, I guess they're massive white lions, so they're not like dogs. Like they're a bit more than cheap redirectors, but like having that war beast that you can push forward would be really, really cool. Aside from that, I think they need some sort of white lion themed set of characters to be like an army's general and hero level character for sure. And then the last thing for me that would definitely sell me on this army of infamy is give me some lion heavy cavalry. Like think demigryph analogs for the high elves, like just armored dudes riding massive white lions. And I'm there for that. When you combine that with the pack lions and a few cool characters thrown into the mix, I think you can have like an extremely thematic cool list. And then just put white lions and like let's ask for everything here. Let's have the axe dudes, the white lions themselves, like in troops, and then we'll call it a really cool thematic army list at that point.
A
What are
lot of
your
people actually did that in 8th.
oh
They
yeah,
would they would mount white lions on the lions from the chariot and use those as their dragon princes.
super cool.
Yeah.
Super cool. And then I'm going to go with a wild prediction here for the second of our Army of Infamy. I was thinking about this because of the timeline and how it's, the big difference for me in High Elves between Warhammer Fantasy Battles and the Old World is the presence of the High Elf colonies around the world still really exist and are present in the setting. So I like the second Army of Infamy to be colonies themed and have like focus on Sea Guard and militias and that kind of stuff, and perhaps some non-high elf units that are not present on Ulthuan or whatever. So yeah, that's it for me. Over to you, Ryan, on Core Hill, Krace, and everything else high elf.
Yeah, so the model is a product of its time. Like it reminds me of that ungodly Bretonian lord that they dug out of a cabinet somewhere.
Yes, yes, with the butter face. Yeah,
Yeah, just derpy face and flipper hands. It's great. It's all good. But no, but he's cool and he has more axes than is reasonable to use at one time. Just has a lot going on. But this, as you were discussing through it, though, I will counter with the exception of Cetra, I don't think any of the other arcane journals have actually gotten major setting characters.
Ungrim.
Yes, okay. But like, but yeah, so that's like 2 out of how many so far, I guess is where I'm getting at.
Yeah, fair.
And they did tell us one of the other elf characters is going to be nautical in nature of some kind.
Oh, that strengthens my colony's army of infamy there.
Unless it's
Oh
Finnabar.
no, it's high. Yeah, it's highly probable that it's Finnabar or something like that, and
Yeah.
then that it's going to be like a Sea Guard heavy type army.
Yeah.
Because I want to say in this time period, I want to say the Elven district in Marienburg either does exist or is about to start existing or has just left. I can't remember, but like it's there and was there recently, if I'm remembering my stuff correctly.
Yeah. Plus, they've got 1 million colonies, so like there's some seafaring going on.
Correct. So yeah, all of that will certainly be interesting. As to what the other Army of Infinity will be, because like whether it's particularly Charse themed or Trace themed, whatever it is, or because going by the pattern they've gone with, there's going to be a mobility themed army, and it's probably not going to be the Sea Guard heavy one. So I have the strong feeling that whatever Charsian type army crops up is also going to double as their all cavalry army for the High Elves. Somehow. I don't know how it's going to do that because you can already run an all cavalry army.
Did they say it was a Trace themed army?
They didn't.
Oh, no,
There's
they
been some
haven't.
rumors. Yeah.
Yeah, they haven't, but also all of the characters that have been released for everyone's army have all been intimately tied to one of the armies of infamy.
So
Um,
it could be like a royal court thing then, because the White Lions are like the bodyguards of the Phoenix King. So it
and that's
could be
kind
like
of
their
yeah.
cav list could be like, oh, it's the royal court, and it'll be like a lot of dragon princes, and then the White Lions will be there to protect like whatever prince is there or whatever.
Well, so the other thing that I was even going to propose is that this dude might just be running around as like a sidekick to Finnabar
Yeah,
instead of actually in like he may be the character kind of like Lady Elise, or not Lady Elise, kind of like the Green Knight for the Bretonians, who like he fits into either of the armies of infamy but is not necessarily like directly involved in the theme of either of them. I could definitely see that being a thing.
I hope it's not like a royal court thing, just because so the high elves are already like it's all about elite units as it is. Like, give me something else rather than just this is the most elite units out of the elite unit army. Yeah, give me another SKU, please.
But I mean, like even in that vein, though, like I do think like a Charsian hunter army could be cool, especially if they do something like, again using the yeoman guard analogy, but like give you an option to take spearmen, but instead they have some other like you can turn your
Axes.
bog
Yeah.
like give them axes that are great weapons or hand weapon and shield, something, I don't know, that just lets you make a different high elf army instead of just moving the special units into the core slot.
Yeah. Fair. No, I agree. I agree with you on that one. Okay, so I think we've covered all the news now. We are up to date. So that more or less wraps up the episode. So let's do our wrap up and shout out stuff. I'll start with you, Ryan. Anything you want to shout out as we close out here?
No, nothing off the top of my head. We're just about done for the year, and I look forward to seeing what gaming comes with 2025, I guess.
For sure, 100% agreed. I think good things are in store for the old world in 2025 for sure. What about you, Andrew?
Not too much. I just do want to say though that I think it was last episode we were lamenting how little there was for Old World, and in a 2 week span, now we've got this huge like wave of tons of new releases, faction showcase for the Empire, like
And more
kinda
previews this week.
Yeah,
They
yeah,
said
more
today.
more coming. So like yeah, like this is definitely like a huge turnaround on sort of that dry spell we were in. So it's actually really exciting and kind of getting me re-hyped up for the game again.
100%. Like they really turn the taps on. Well, actually, it's a bunch of leaks primarily, but yeah, the taps have been really turned on, and this is really great to see. I think it just, as you mentioned, Andrew, energizes everybody for sure. There's more stuff coming this week. Ryan, if I was a betting man, I'd say it's the second Empire character. Like our friend, was it Harold on the horse there, the Knights Panther Grand Master is probably the guy they're going to reveal and discuss this week. But if it's not, that'll be super cool and interesting too. Yeah, so that's it for me, and I think for all of us. So we were happy to have spent the evening here with you guys. This has been Motley Crude. It's been our pleasure to be with all of you, and we are looking forward to the next episode. Have a good one.